My brothers and sisters, have you ever noticed that sometimes the most powerful message is delivered without a single word being spoken? There are moments in life when silence shakes hearts more than any argument ever could. Silence can protect you, it can elevate you, and it can even change the course of your destiny. Yet many of us underestimate its power. Today, I want to share with you why silence, when chosen at the right time, can bring you everything you've ever sought in life. Sometimes silence is the answer that no amount of shouting could ever achieve. People may insult you, accuse you, or try to drag you into unnecessary arguments. And what do we often do? We rush to defend ourselves. We speak without thinking. We say things in anger and later we regret. But the wise person knows, not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment deserves a reply. Silence can be your shield. Silence can be your strength. How many times have you spoken in frustration and then spent the whole night regretting your words? If only you had remained quiet, you would have saved yourself the stress, the guilt, and sometimes even the broken relationship. Silence can prevent problems before they even begin. A single harsh word can destroy a marriage. A careless comment can end a friendship. But silence has never broken a heart. Silence has never created regret. There are moments when silence protects your dignity. Imagine being accused falsely, being mocked, being belittled. The natural reaction is to fight back, to shout louder, to prove yourself. But my brothers and sisters, sometimes the most dignified response is to say nothing. Let your character speak for you. Let your actions prove your truth. Because people forget words, but they cannot ignore consistent character. Silence here is not weakness, it is honor. Silence is also a form of wisdom. Our beloved Prophet taught us that if you believe in Allah and the last day, then say what is good or remain silent. Why? Because silence protects you from sin. Think about the number of problems that come only because of the tongue. Gossip, backbiting, lying, swearing, insulting. Each word leaves a mark. By choosing silence, you save yourself from the weight of accountability on the day of judgment. But silence is not just about avoiding harm. It is about gaining self-control. The tongue is powerful. It can heal and it can destroy. When you learn to remain silent, you are actually training your soul to be disciplined. You are telling yourself, not every thought deserves to be spoken. Not every reaction deserves to be expressed. This level of control is what separates a wise person from a reckless one. Another gift of silence is that it allows you to listen. Too many of us are busy talking, busy interrupting, busy trying to be heard. But when you are silent, you begin to hear. Not only the words of people, but their emotions, their pain, their needs. You begin to connect on a deeper level. You realize that sometimes people don't want answers. They don't want lectures. They just want to be heard. And silence gives you the ability to hear them, to understand them, and to show compassion. Silence also brings you peace. In a world full of noise, social media arguments, endless debates, constant opinions, silence becomes a refuge. When you sit quietly, away from the noise, you give your heart space to breathe. You give your mind space to think. And in that silence, you often hear the voice of your soul calling you back to your Creator. You remember Allah. You reflect on your life. You gain clarity about what truly matters. And one of the most powerful aspects of silence is that it shows trust in Allah. When someone wrongs you, insults you, or spreads lies about you, you may feel desperate to explain yourself. But when you remain silent, you are placing your trust in the Almighty. You are saying, my Lord knows the truth. My Lord will defend me better than I ever could. That silence is not emptiness. It is full of faith. It is full of conviction that Allah is enough for you. And finally, silence saves you from destroying your hereafter. The Prophet warned us that the majority of people will enter the fire because of the misuse of their tongue. One wrong word can cost a person their salvation. Silence, on the other hand, is a protection. Every moment you hold back from gossip, every time you resist responding with an insult, every time you stop yourself from uttering what displeases Allah, you are protecting your soul and securing your future in the hereafter. My beloved brothers and sisters, silence is not weakness. It is not cowardice. It is a strength, a shield, a wisdom, a form of worship, and a source of peace. The next time you feel the urge to argue, to prove your point, to speak in anger, pause. Remember this: silence speaks louder than words. And if you remain silent with patience and trust, Allah will grant you far more than you could ever achieve with your words. My brothers and sisters, one of the most difficult moments in life is when you are provoked. Someone insults you, mocks you, spreads lies about you, or tries to pull you into a useless argument. And deep inside, you feel that urge. You want to respond immediately. You want to prove them wrong. You want to say something back that will silence them. But here is the truth: the more you argue with a person who is not sincere, the more you lose your peace. You might win the argument, but you lose your calm, you lose your dignity, you lose your energy. Silence at such times is far more powerful than 1,000 words. When you remain silent, you are not saying, "I agree with the falsehood." No, you are saying, "This does not deserve my energy. This is not worth my peace. This is not worth my time." You are choosing to value your own well-being over a temporary victory. And very often, the people who try to provoke you are seeking attention. They want a reaction. They want to pull you down to their level. When you remain silent, you deny them that satisfaction. You rise above them. You leave them puzzled, confused, and powerless, because silence takes away their weapon. Think of how many marriages have been broken because of unnecessary words. Sometimes a husband says something in anger, and the wife responds with something sharper. Back and forth, the words fly until both hearts are shattered and the home is destroyed. If one of them had chosen silence, just silence, the storm would have passed. Later, when tempers cooled down, a calm discussion could have solved the problem. But because silence was abandoned, damage was done that could not be repaired. Silence, my brothers and sisters, is not about losing an argument, it is about winning peace. And what about our friendships? How many friendships end not because of betrayal, not because of major wrongs, but because of words spoken in frustration? A friend makes a mistake, and instead of staying calm, we lash out, we insult, we say things that cut deep, and even if we later apologize, those words remain like scars. Silence could have saved that friendship. Silence could have bought us time to think, to reflect, to choose better words, because silence is not emptiness, it is space. It gives space for wisdom to grow, for emotions to settle, for kindness to return. Silence also exposes truth in ways words never can. Imagine someone accusing you of something you did not do. If you argue back, the matter drags on. People start debating who is right, who is wrong. But if you remain silent, if you carry yourself with dignity, time will reveal the truth. People will begin to notice this person is calm. They are not bitter. They are not defensive. Surely they cannot be guilty. Silence here is more powerful than 1,000 speeches of self-defense. It is patience in action, and patience is beloved to Allah. My brothers and sisters, silence is not just about external conflicts. Sometimes the battle is inside us. How often do we talk ourselves into sadness, into anxiety, into despair? We replay conversations in our heads. We rehearse arguments that never happened. We remind ourselves of old insults. We talk so much within our own minds that we create storms where none exist. What if, instead of fueling those thoughts, we practice silence inside our hearts? What if we stopped entertaining every negative voice? Silence is not just about the tongue, it is also about the heart and the mind. When you quiet the noise inside, you allow peace to enter. And silence is not always permanent. Sometimes silence is simply a pause. It is taking a step back so that you can return stronger, wiser, and calmer. A person who remains silent in the heat of the moment is not weak. They are simply gathering their strength. They are saying, "I will not respond now. I will wait until I can speak with wisdom." That kind of silence transforms conflicts into opportunities for growth. Silence also teaches us humility. Not every opinion of ours needs to be heard. Not every thought we have is valuable. Sometimes silence is a way of saying, "I don't know, I don't have all the answers. I will listen, I will learn." And this humility opens doors of knowledge that arrogance closes. A person who always wants to be the loudest in the room learns nothing. But the one who stays silent, who listens, who reflects, becomes wise. And let me tell you something very important, my brothers and sisters. Silence is often misunderstood. People will say, "Why didn't you answer back? Why didn't you defend yourself? Why are you being quiet?" And you must understand, their measure of strength is wrong. They think strength is loudness, aggressiveness, dominance. But true strength is to remain composed when others lose control. True strength is to walk away when others are desperate for a fight. True strength is to protect your tongue when others let theirs run wild. Silence, in reality, is strength clothed in humility. So the next time you are tempted to argue, the next time someone throws words at you like arrows, ask yourself, do I really want to waste my peace on this? Do I want to lose my dignity in this battle? More often than not, the answer will be no. And in that moment, if you choose silence, you will realize that silence speaks louder than any response you could have given. My beloved brothers and sisters, silence is not just a tool for peace in this world. Silence is a pathway to closeness with Allah Almighty. It is a form of worship, a form of patience, and a form of discipline that polishes the soul. And when you learn the true value of silence, you realize that it is not an absence of sound. It is the presence of wisdom, of faith, and of trust in your Creator. Let us reflect for a moment. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told us clearly, whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent. This teaching is not simply about manners, it is about salvation. Every word you utter is written by the angels. Every sentence becomes a witness for you or against you on the day of judgment. Do you know what that means? It means silence at the right time is not only saving you from arguments in this life, it is saving you from punishment in the next. How many people will stand on the day of judgment with mountains of good deeds only to see them erased because of their tongue? Words of gossip, words of backbiting, words of mockery, words of arrogance. And yet these words might have taken only a few seconds to utter. Silence could have protected all of those deeds. Silence could have saved a lifetime of worship. Silence could have secured their hereafter. Now ask yourself, how many words do we utter daily without thinking? Conversations on the phone, endless debates online, careless jokes, arguments that lead nowhere. If every word is written, how many unnecessary lines are filling our books of deeds? Silence, my brothers and sisters, is not just peace for today. It is security for tomorrow. It is your shield on the day of judgment. But silence is not only about protecting yourself from sin. Silence is also about listening to Allah. When the world becomes noisy, when every voice around you is shouting, silence allows you to retreat into remembrance. It gives you space to sit quietly with your heart and say, Ya Allah, guide me, Ya Allah, strengthen me, Ya Allah, I leave this matter in your hands. That moment of silent reflection may change your entire life, because in silence your heart speaks to Allah in ways your tongue cannot. Have you ever noticed how the most sincere prayers are not always the longest or the loudest? Sometimes it is the quiet tears, the silent whispers of the heart that reach Allah the fastest. When you are alone in your room and you don't even know what words to say, but your silence is filled with need, filled with pain, filled with longing for your Creator, that silence becomes dua. That silence becomes a connection between you and the Lord of the worlds. And there is something else. Silence builds patience. Patience is one of the most beloved qualities to Allah. He says in the Quran that He is with those who are patient, but patience is not always about waiting. Sometimes patience is holding your tongue when you are insulted. Sometimes patience is staying calm when you are provoked. Sometimes patience is saying nothing when everything inside you wants to explode. That silence is not weakness. It is sabr. It is worship. It is rewarded by Allah. My brothers and sisters, silence also reflects trust in Allah's justice. When someone wrongs you, you might think, I must respond. I must defend myself. I must show them. But what if you remained silent and said, Allah knows, Allah sees, Allah will defend me better than I can defend myself? That silence becomes tawakkul, trust in Allah. And trust in Allah is one of the greatest strengths of a believer. When you trust Allah enough to be silent, you are placing your case in the hands of the most just, the most powerful, the one who never forgets. And remember, silence is not always about others. Sometimes silence is about protecting yourself from your own ego. When people praise you, when they compliment you, your ego wants to respond, to show off, to claim credit. But silence at that moment is humility. It is saying, all praise belongs to Allah. He is the source of everything good in my life. Silence here saves you from arrogance. And arrogance is one of the most dangerous diseases of the heart. Silence also opens the door to reflection. When you are not speaking, you have time to think. You can ask yourself, where am I heading in life? What is my relationship with Allah? Am I ready to meet Him? Silence creates space for these questions, space for self-accountability, space for growth. The great scholars of the past often said, the more you speak, the less you reflect. But the more you remain silent, the more your heart awakens. Now imagine standing before Allah on the day of judgment. Imagine the angels bringing forth your book of deeds. And as you look through it, you realize the times you remain silent are shining pages of protection. Each silence is a shield. Each silence is a moment where you could have sinned, but you didn't. Each silence is a testimony that you valued your hereafter over your ego. How beautiful would it be if silence became one of your greatest acts of worship? Let us not forget, my brothers and sisters, silence is also mercy. When you remain silent, you protect others from harm. A word spoken in anger can crush someone's heart. A careless comment can ruin someone's day. But silence prevents that pain. Silence becomes an act of kindness. Silence becomes a form of mercy. And the Prophet told us, those who show mercy will be shown mercy by the most merciful. So silence is not emptiness, silence is full. It is full of wisdom, full of patience, full of trust, full of mercy. And if you master the art of silence, you will find that Allah places barakah in your words when you do speak. Your speech becomes more meaningful, more powerful, more beneficial. Because silence teaches you that words are precious. And when you finally use them, they carry weight. My beloved brothers and sisters, remember this. The world may value loudness, arguments, debates, and dominance. But Allah values patience, humility, self-control, and trust. And silence is the gateway to all of these qualities. Silence is not the absence of speech. Silence is the presence of faith. Silence is not something we practice once in a while. It is a discipline, a way of life, a quality that shapes your character and defines your destiny. Silence is not just about what you don't say. It is about who you become when you choose restraint over reaction, patience over provocation, dignity over disgrace. When you learn to master silence, you are mastering yourself. You are taking control of the most dangerous weapon you possess, your tongue. The tongue is light, yet it is heavy in its consequences. It is small, yet it can cause damage greater than the sharpest sword. One word can start a war. One word can break a heart. One word can destroy generations. But one silence can prevent all of that. Look around the world today. How many conflicts begin not with actions, but with words? Leaders insult each other, communities argue, families fight, and it all begins with the misuse of the tongue. Now imagine if silence was practiced more often. How many lives could be saved? How many relationships could be protected? How many hearts could be healed? Silence, my brothers and sisters, is not weakness. It is one of the greatest forms of strength humanity needs today. In your personal life, silence is a key to harmony. In marriage, silence often protects love. A husband might say something harsh in a moment of stress, and the wife may be tempted to respond immediately. But if she remains silent at that moment, the fire does not grow. And the same goes for the husband. If he chooses silence when provoked, the storm calms down. Silence in this way is not neglect. It is wisdom. It is choosing peace over unnecessary conflict. With children, silence is also powerful. Sometimes parents shout too quickly, criticize too harshly, or lecture without pause. But a silent moment, a deep breath, can save a child's heart from being wounded. Silence teaches you to respond with thought, not just reaction. It allows you to guide with compassion rather than frustration. In society, silence saves us from gossip and backbiting. Today, people speak so easily about others. We discuss the faults of those who are not present. We pass judgment. We spread rumors. But silence at such times is protection. Imagine if, instead of joining the conversation, you chose to remain quiet. That silence is a form of worship. That silence is a shield protecting you from falling into sin. And not only does it save you, it sets an example for others. They may begin to realize, why are we speaking about someone who is not here? What benefit is there in this? Silence, therefore, is a teacher. For those in leadership, silence is even more important. A leader who speaks without thought can cause division, fear, and destruction. But a leader who knows when to remain silent earns respect. Silence in leadership shows wisdom. It shows that you do not rush to please everyone. You do not rush to defend every accusation. You do not rush to join every debate. You wait, you observe, you think, you pray, and then you speak. And your words carry weight because they are rare, they are measured, and they are meaningful. Now let us return to the spiritual dimension. Silence is not only for people, it is for Allah. When you are silent, you are more able to hear the whispers of your conscience reminding you of your Creator. In the silence of the night, when the world is asleep, you sit alone with your thoughts. That is the moment when your heart becomes alive. You realize how small you are and how great Allah is. You realize how little control you have and how much control He has. Silence connects you to your soul. It makes you honest with yourself. Silence also increases sincerity. When you remain quiet, you do not feel the need to impress people with words. You are not performing for the crowd. You are not seeking validation. You are simply being. And in that simplicity, your worship becomes purer. You pray not to be seen, but because you love your Lord. You give charity not to be praised, but because you seek His reward. Silence in this way purifies your intentions. And silence prepares you for death. Think about it. When you are lowered into your grave, there will be silence all around you. No debates, no arguments, no noise, just silence. And in that silence, your deeds will speak for you. Every moment you remained silent to avoid sin, every time you held back your tongue, every pause you made for the sake of Allah, all of it will be light in your grave. The silence of this world prepares you for the silence of the next. But perhaps one of the greatest benefits of silence is that it makes your words more valuable. A person who is always speaking, always arguing, always voicing an opinion, their words lose meaning. People stop listening. But a person who is mostly silent, who speaks rarely, who speaks only when necessary, when they finally open their mouth, everyone pays attention. Why? Because silence has given value to their speech. Silence has given weight to their words. Silence has made their voice powerful. My brothers and sisters, silence is a form of dignity. It is a form of wisdom. It is a form of strength. But above all, silence is a form of faith. Every time you remain silent when you could have sinned, you are proving your love for Allah. Every time you choose silence over anger, you are proving your self-control. Every time you remain silent instead of responding to insults, you are proving your trust in Allah's justice. And every time you sit in silence to reflect, you are proving that your soul values peace over noise. So ask yourself, how much silence is in your life? Do you control your tongue, or does your tongue control you? Do you use silence as a shield, as a discipline, as an act of worship? Or do you fear silence because you crave attention, because you cannot bear to sit with your own thoughts? Silence is a test, and if you learn to pass this test, you will find peace in this world and success in the hereafter. Remember, my brothers and sisters, the world may glorify loudness, debates, arguments, and constant opinions. But Allah glorifies patience, humility, self-control, and sincerity. And silence is the gateway to all of these qualities. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is full of wisdom, full of peace, full of faith. My beloved brothers and sisters, silence is not just a habit. Silence is a school, a teacher, a journey that lasts from the moment you begin to understand words until the day you leave this world. Every stage of your life is touched by silence, sometimes as a gift, sometimes as a test, and always as a lesson. And the deeper you reflect on silence, the more you realize that it is not about withholding your voice. It is about discovering your true self. As children, we learn quickly that words have power. A child speaks and the world responds. But a child who learns the art of silence, who observes, who listens, who reflects, grows into a person of wisdom. Many of the great scholars of the past were known not for how much they spoke when they were young, but for how much they listened. Their silence was not ignorance, it was training. They were preparing their minds, sharpening their hearts, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. That silence became the foundation of their greatness. As adults, silence becomes even more vital. When we enter into marriage, silence saves love. When we raise children, silence saves hearts. When we interact with friends, neighbors, and colleagues, silence saves relationships. One moment of silence in anger can preserve decades of trust. One moment of silence in frustration can save an entire family from breaking apart. But the challenge, my brothers and sisters, is that silence requires discipline. It requires humility. It requires faith. Think about the countless situations where silence could change everything. At work, when colleagues are gossiping about someone, silence makes you honorable. In your home, when tensions rise, silence makes you wise. On social media, when arguments flare and everyone is desperate to have the last word, silence makes you dignified. You don't need to win every debate. You don't need to reply to every insult. You don't need to comment on every post. Silence frees you from chains that others willingly wear. And silence, when it comes to worship, is one of the most profound acts of devotion. How many times do we pray mechanically, moving our tongues but not our hearts? Silence before prayer, silence after prayer, just a pause to reflect, can transform that act into something life-changing. In silence, you prepare your heart for the presence of Allah. In silence, you let the words of the Quran sink into your soul. In silence, you understand that worship is not only about what you say, but about what you feel and who you become. Silence also builds strength against Shaitan. The devil whispers, he provokes, he makes you angry, he makes you impatient. And when you respond with loudness, with shouting, with hurtful words, he celebrates. But when you remain silent, you frustrate him. He cannot use your tongue as a weapon. He cannot make you destroy your own peace. Every time you remain silent in the face of provocation, you are defeating Shaitan. That silence is a victory. That silence is jihad of the soul. Now think of death. When a person passes away, the noise of the world fades. Their voice is silenced, their tongue is still. And what remains? Only the record of their words and their silences. Imagine standing before Allah and seeing that the moments you stayed quiet when you could have sinned are shining like jewels in your book of deeds. Every silence that saved you from gossip, every silence that saved you from anger, every silence that saved you from arrogance, those silences will speak louder on the day of judgment than any words you could have uttered in this world. And silence does not only protect your hereafter, it shapes your legacy. When people remember you after you are gone, they will not recall every word you spoke. They will remember how you made them feel. They will remember whether your presence was peaceful or restless. A person who learns the power of silence leaves behind a legacy of calmness, of dignity, of respect. People will say, this person never spoke unnecessarily. This person was thoughtful. This person carried themselves with honor. That is a legacy silence creates. But silence, my brothers and sisters, is not absolute. It is not about never speaking. It is about knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. The same silence that can save you can also harm you if misused. If injustice is happening and you remain silent, that silence is betrayal. If oppression is spreading and you remain silent, that silence is cowardice. If truth is needed and you remain silent, that silence is weakness. So silence must be guided by wisdom. Remain silent when it protects you from harm, but speak when silence would make you complicit in evil. That is why silence is a discipline. It is not simply closing your mouth. It is training your heart to know when silence is strength and when speech is duty. It is training your soul to recognize when your words will heal and when your silence will protect. And the one who masters this balance becomes truly wise. They do not waste words. They do not waste silences. Every moment of their life is purposeful, intentional, meaningful. And my beloved brothers and sisters, silence brings you closer to Allah in ways nothing else can. In silence, you hear the whispers of your own soul. In silence, you reflect on your sins and your blessings. In silence, you cry without words, and Allah responds to your tears. In silence, you acknowledge your weakness, and Allah grants you strength. In silence, you surrender your battles to Him, and He fights them for you. That silence is not empty. Now, it is filled with His presence. So let us not underestimate the value of silence. It is not simply the absence of speech. It is the presence of wisdom, patience, humility, faith, and trust. It is a teacher in your youth, a protector in your adulthood, a companion in your old age, and a witness in your grave. Silence can save your relationships, it can save your faith, it can save your hereafter. And when you master the art of silence, you will find that Allah places barakah in your words when you do speak, so that a single sentence from your lips carries more weight than an entire book of noise. My brothers and sisters, the world around us celebrates loudness, arguments, opinions, and endless noise. But the believer celebrates patience, humility, sincerity, and wisdom. And silence is the gateway to all of them. So embrace silence, protect your tongue, guard your soul, and remember, silence speaks louder than words, not only in this world, but in the life to come. Silence is not just a shield in this world, it is a mirror. It shows you who you truly are when the noise fades. When you sit in silence with no distractions, no arguments, no conversations, you begin to see your own soul. You begin to notice your weaknesses, your pride, your impatience. Silence humbles you because it strips away all performance, all pretense, all excuses. In that silence, you come face to face with your reality. But silence is also where healing begins. Many of us run from silence because we fear it. We fear being alone with our thoughts. We fear hearing our conscience. We fear remembering the mistakes we have made. So we keep filling our lives with noise, endless chatter, music, arguments, distractions. But healing will never come through noise. Healing comes when you allow silence to speak. When you sit quietly, reflect, admit your mistakes to yourself, and then turn back to Allah in repentance. Silence creates the space for tawbah. And in silence, you learn to value words. Today, people speak carelessly because words are cheap. We type them, we post them, we throw them out into the world without thought. But a person of silence knows the weight of words. They know that one sentence can uplift a broken heart, and one insult can destroy a soul. They know that every word is either light or darkness on the day of judgment. So they choose words carefully, sparingly, wisely. They do not waste speech, they do not waste silence. My brothers and sisters, think of the people you admire most. The wise elders, the respected leaders, the beloved scholars. They are not people of endless noise. They are people who speak less. But when they speak, their words pierce the heart. Why? Because silence gave their words strength. Silence trained their tongue to speak only what mattered. Silence polished their hearts so that their words came from sincerity. That is why people listen. That is why their words remain long after they are gone. And remember, silence is not laziness. Silence is not neglect. Silence is intentional. It is purposeful. It is choosing restraint over recklessness, patience over provocation, dignity over disgrace. It is saying, I do not need to win this argument. I do not need to respond to this insult. I do not need to prove myself in this moment. Allah knows, and that is enough. That intention transforms silence from emptiness into worship. But silence also requires courage. Sometimes the hardest thing in the world is to stay quiet when you know you could win the debate, when you know you could say something sharp, when you know you could embarrass the other person. The ego pushes you to speak, but courage is to silence the ego, to hold back, to walk away. That courage is what elevates you in the sight of Allah. And silence, my brothers and sisters, protects the purity of your heart. The more you speak unnecessarily, the more your heart becomes clouded. You fall into gossip, into criticism, into arrogance. But when you practice silence, your heart remains clean. It becomes a vessel for dhikr, for Quran, for gratitude. A silent heart is a heart that is alive. So ask yourself, when was the last time you embraced silence? Not the silence of bitterness, not the silence of resentment, but the silence of wisdom, of patience, of trust in Allah. When was the last time you sat quietly and simply remembered your Creator? When was the last time you chose silence instead of anger? Silence instead of gossip? Silence instead of proving yourself? My brothers and sisters, silence is not only for this world. It prepares you for the next. In your grave, there will be silence. In that silence, your deeds will speak. Your tongue will not move, but your actions will testify. And if you trained your tongue with silence in this world, then that silence in the grave will not frighten you. It will comfort you. It will remind you of the nights you sat in reflection, the moments you held back your anger, the times you chose patience over provocation. That silence will be your friend, not your enemy. And on the day of judgment, when people are gathered, there will be moments of terrifying silence. Imagine billions of souls standing, waiting, with no words to defend themselves. In that silence, your tongue will not help you. Only your deeds will, and silence will testify for you. The silence you practice to protect your tongue, the silence you embrace to avoid sin, the silence you use to trust Allah instead of defending yourself, that silence will become a shield, a witness, a mercy. So never underestimate the value of silence. It is not empty, it is full. It is full of wisdom, of patience, of dignity, of faith. And the one who learns to master silence is not someone who has lost their voice. They are someone who has gained their soul. My beloved brothers and sisters, silence is not only a response, not only a habit, not even only a form of worship. Silence is a way of life. It is a lifelong journey of the believer, from the moment you learn to speak until the moment you meet Allah. If you truly reflect, you will see that silence is present at every stage of life, shaping who you are, protecting what you love, and preparing you for where you are going. As children, silence trains us to observe. A child who watches, who listens, who reflects, grows into a person of wisdom. As youth, silence saves us from arrogance. When you are young, you want to prove yourself, to show off, to have the last word. But silence teaches humility, the ability to learn, the ability to admit, I don't know. And that humility is the key to knowledge. As adults, silence protects our marriages, our friendships, our communities. It stops arguments from destroying love. It saves words for when they matter most. And in old age, silence becomes our dignity. People respect the elder who does not speak unnecessarily, but when they do speak, their words carry the weight of years. Silence at every stage is a crown on the head of wisdom. But silence, my brothers and sisters, is not simply the absence of speech. Silence is the presence of discipline. It is self-mastery. The hardest battle you will ever fight is not with your enemies. It is with your own tongue. You can conquer nations and still be defeated by your tongue. You can build empires and still destroy yourself with a single word. But the one who controls their tongue through silence is stronger than any warrior. They are not a prisoner of their impulses. They are a master of themselves. And silence is not only about protecting yourself, silence is about protecting others. How many hearts have been shattered by careless words? How many reputations have been destroyed by gossip? How many relationships have been broken by arguments? Your silence could be someone's safety. Your silence could be someone's healing. Your silence could be the reason someone keeps their dignity. When you remain silent instead of adding fuel to gossip, you are protecting the honor of your brother or sister. And protecting someone's honor is an act of worship. Look at our homes today. How much pain could be avoided if we practiced silence? A husband comes home tired. A wife is exhausted from caring for the family. One word of criticism can cause an explosion, but silence, just silence in that moment, could save the evening. With children too, sometimes they make mistakes. We want to shout, we want to lecture, we want to scold. But silence, followed by gentle advice later, can do more good than 1,000 harsh words. Silence is not weakness in a home, it is wisdom, it is love. And in society, silence is a protection from sin. When you sit with people who are backbiting, silence saves you. When you hear arguments about things that don't concern you, silence saves you. When you see people wasting time in useless talk, silence saves you. And this silence is not only a shield, it is an example. Others begin to notice. This person doesn't engage in gossip. This person doesn't waste their words. Slowly, they may begin to change too. Your silence becomes a dawah. Leaders especially need silence. A leader who speaks without thought destroys trust. A leader who responds to every insult becomes small. But a leader who knows when to remain silent gains respect. Silence in leadership shows wisdom, it shows restraint, it shows confidence, because sometimes silence says more than any speech ever could. Now, my brothers and sisters, let us look at the spiritual power of silence. Silence is not empty, silence is full of remembrance. When you are silent, your heart can remember Allah without distraction. You can sit quietly, reflect on your blessings, and whisper to yourself, Alhamdulillah. You can reflect on your mistakes and whisper, Astaghfirullah. You can look at the creation around you and whisper, Subhanallah. This kind of silent dhikr purifies the soul. It keeps you connected to your Lord even when your tongue is not moving. And silence strengthens your dua. Have you ever sat alone, unable to find words, but tears flowed from your eyes? That silence is also dua. That silence is your soul calling out to Allah in a language only He understands. Sometimes the most powerful prayer is not in words, but in tears. And Allah responds because He hears what is in the heart, even when the tongue is silent. Silence is also patience. It is sabr in action. When someone insults you and you remain silent, that is patience. When someone accuses you falsely and you remain silent, that is patience. When you are tempted to backbite but you remain silent, that is patience. And Allah promises that He is with those who are patient. Imagine, your silence could make Allah be with you. What more could a believer want? Silence is also trust in Allah. Tawakkul. When you are wronged, you may feel desperate to defend yourself. But when you remain silent and say, Allah knows, Allah sees, Allah will defend me, that silence becomes faith. It becomes reliance on the one who never forgets, never fails, never sleeps, and His defense is stronger than anything you could ever say. And silence, my brothers and sisters, saves you from the fire. The Prophet, peace be upon him, warned us that the majority of people will enter hell because of the misuse of their tongues. One wrong word, one lie, one insult, one gossip, that could drag a person to destruction. But silence saves you. Every time you hold your tongue, you are protecting yourself from a punishment greater than you can imagine. Silence is not just wisdom, it is salvation. And think of death. When you are lowered into the grave, the world will become silent. No voices, no debates, no arguments, just silence. And in that silence, your deeds will speak. Imagine how much comfort you will feel if your record shows silences that protected you. Silences in anger, silences in gossip, silences in sin. Each silence will shine like a light in your grave. Each silence will testify that you valued your hereafter over your ego. On the day of judgment, there will be terrifying silence as humanity awaits judgment. In that silence, your tongue will not help you. Only your actions will. And silence will become a witness for you. Silence will stand on your side and say, Ya Allah, this servant held me back for your sake. This servant did not use me to harm. This servant restrained me when others could not. And Allah, in His mercy, will reward you for every silence you practiced with sincerity. But silence is not always the answer. Sometimes silence is betrayal. Silence in the face of injustice is wrong. Silence when the truth must be spoken is weakness. Silence when people are oppressed is cowardice. So we must be wise. Remain silent when it saves you from sin, but speak when silence would allow evil to grow. This balance is the essence of wisdom, to know when silence is faith and when silence is failure. And finally, silence builds your legacy. People will not remember every word you said, but they will remember whether your words healed or harmed. They will remember if your presence was calm or chaotic. A person of silence leaves behind a legacy of dignity. People say they did not waste words. They spoke only when it mattered. Their words healed. Their presence brought peace. That is the kind of legacy silence creates, a legacy that lasts beyond the grave. So my beloved brothers and sisters, silence is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is wisdom. It is patience. It is humility. It is trust. It is worship. It is protection. It is legacy. Silence is the language of the wise, the shield of the righteous, the comfort of the heart, and the preparation for the hereafter. Learn silence, practice silence, master silence, because silence speaks louder than words. In this world, in the grave, and on the day when every soul will stand before Allah,